A Sankarshan Joshi trip.
Sumukha, like you were my first ever like podcast, like my debut episode, like you were there,
Mm.
and literally it's been like close to 1 year. Like a lot has changed since the last time you were here. So we have gained like I've gained a little bit of audience, like who don't know you yet. So like, can you like reintroduce yourself, like for all the new audience who've been like listening to this?
Wow, it feels like an intro video for auditions. Hi guys, my name is Sumukha Prasad. My height is 5'7", my weight is 65 kgs, and these are my profiles left, right. The languages which I'm comfortable with are English, Hindi, and Kannada. I'm just kidding. So, hi everyone, my name is Sumukha, and I'm currently pursuing my um, what am I pursuing? My acting career in Whistling Woods. I'm undergoing training right now. I don't know if I want to be an actor, but I know the I know I love the culture of acting and filmmaking and theater, and I would always want to aspire to be an actor, if not anything else. So that's about me, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. And like last time when you were here, you were pursuing like your production company, like Piece of Paper Production, like you were putting out plays. So it's been like such a crazy timeline with your acting and like theater career, right? Like initially you started off with like Piece of Paper Productions, which were like putting out plays in Bangalore, and then slowly when the pandemic hit, like that's when you were on the podcast. Like that's when you were moving towards like the short film and the filmmaking aspect of this art form, and then like right now you're pursuing like acting, like you are learning the form of art. So like
Yeah.
how is it like this entire journey, like how do you feel about it?
Well, when I started theater, I loved acting. I think acting was something that I wanted to always be. I wanted to get into the field of acting. I wanted to only act. I got into writing when I started keeping a journal. I think this was in 11th standard, and I liked writing because even when I used to write my journal, I used to like write it in a form of a story, and then I would add my own imagination, exaggerate. I would exaggerate to myself, and I would believe it also, which was a bit toxic for a while. Um, then I think when I got into filmmaking, which was again in first year engineering, I hated acting. Then I realized like screen is not. I don't want to get into screen yet. I mean, screen is not something that I enjoy. But that's also because I wasn't exposed to the right kinds. I was exposed to like student productions and unprofessional banters and all that. But stage theater was actually the only thing that kept pushing me,
Mm.
right? And once POP came about, it was my way to do it, right? I could figure out my own way. I don't need to stick to a conventional sort of production or anything like that. And then I think that's when I became more interested in the entire field of the craft of filmmaking. But today, with confidence, I can say I'm inclined towards stage more. Like
Mm.
having grasped all the different mediums, I am much more inclined towards stage. And I know even if I don't end up on a screen, it's okay. I mean, it's not even a problem for me. For me, screen is just a plus point for me right now. I just need to end up on stages. If I don't, then that's like a bad thing. But yeah,
Yeah, like how you said, like your initial perception of like screen acting was based on like student productions because that is what you were exposed to and that's what you were associated with. I am glad that like I got associated with you at the initial stages of my college life because uh, I had a passion for acting, like I've loved doing that, but I didn't know how to do that. Like I wasn't exposed to the right like people. But initially when I met you, I think that the part of the reason why I fell in love with like theater and stage is you. Like I can like proudly say
oh,
that like you are though, like because initially whatever you see, that's what like that will lay the foundation for like you, like whatever you do next, right? So like I saw like you were so passionate about this art form. Like in our college theater club, a lot of people were there just for the sake of it, like they had to be in one. in a club, or they want to socialize or just to chill. A lot of people were like that, but like you were like so passionate, which like motivated me to be better. Initially when I performed plays which was directed by Vaishak, or like different people, like even Jayasmruti, so it's like at the bottom of my head I always wanted you to acknowledge like my acting, like that was there at the bottom, like that's how much I respected you in this like field of art. So yeah.
Thank you. That's a big thing to say, like a very big thing to say. But no,
Yeah.
I didn't. I mean, obviously, I think this is a very cliche thing for every person to say. I didn't expect anyone to look up to me. But yeah, thank you. That's a very nice thing to say.
Because like you don't always admire successful people, right? Like that's one of the things that I learned doing the podcast. Like usually I don't strive to bring like people with like fame on the podcast. Like mostly it's because of the content that they have, that initially started off with you also. Like even though like you are not like famous or like known to the people, I respect the knowledge you possess. I kind of admire that. So that has been like the one like constant thing from the initial episode to this. So this is going to be the 24th episode. Like all the 24, right? Like that has
Mm.
been the major motto. It's to like bring the people that I admire and then like talk to them. So yeah.
But it's actually been nice. I've been following a lot of, especially with the fitness thing. I could realize the fitness thing when you did that episode. I think you were more pumped than your guest. You were like and you were so enraged with those people who are doing the belly thing. I
Yeah.
realized you kept
Yeah.
putting stories like, "What is this, guys? This is not fitness. This is not how you get abs."
Yeah, like I've
But
been like since I started like my fitness journey, right? Like I've been exposed to like wrong form of content and the right form of content. So like the wrong content triggers me. So even when I had like Shivi on the podcast, like when we were talking about
hmm,
like fitness, so she's a proper like personal trainer. Like she is educated in this field, and a lot of
hmm,
like the lot of source information sources, we both have been exposed to the same source. So it's like I can like we both know what we are talking. And it's like a lot of struggle that I've been through, like she can understand, because like once you get into fitness you become kind of neurotic about it, like you obsess over it, let's say losing fat or like losing that, like just with
hmm,
like any form of art, let's say like even with acting also, like you can get obsessed with like one way of acting or like one method of acting. So it's like yeah, it kind of becomes neurotic, so we could like have conversation about
hmm.
that. So what do you think about that, like obsession in the form of art, like neurotic obsession?
I think it is both healthy and not healthy. When the obsession is something that is glorified in today's world. Like you need to be obsessed about something in order to gain success, right? I don't think so. I think it's just consistency, or it doesn't even have to be anything. Why does it have to be any? I just think if you like it, if you're not if you're not being unhealthy on yourself because of that, you're good to go. You don't see people struggling every day, going like, "वो मुझे ये करना है, मुझे यही करना है," but they still get what they want. It's just because they're enjoying it. They make sure that they're not toxic about their own likings and findings and all that. And I
Yeah.
think that's what's important for especially the longer run, right? I think not being toxic about something is very important.
Yeah, so true, so true. Or like even with like my experience of toxicity, like with theater and acting was, like I was saying initially when you were on the podcast, like we talk about this, where I relied entirely on like a raw emotion to act. Let's say I would have like this like trigger things that would trigger a certain emotion, and I completely relied on that like during the practice and acting. A play that like Vaishak directed was such a emotionally draining one, because like it was very intense on me. Like the role was, he had a toxic father, like he had a toxic relationship, abusive father, and like they
Wait,
were
which
like
one are we talking about?
it is
The
Dvitva, a Kannada play that Vaishak directed.
which I judged, right? Which I
Yes,
was
yes,
part of.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
That's Bhishma or Bhima or something. No,
Yeah,
Bhima and Draupadi.
it was like the duality of like Mahabharata and real life. So like it
Ah,
was like the play was beautifully written, yet it was so much like emotionally like jarring, like it was too much to take. So I didn't know how to like delegate that, like that intensity. So I kind of relied on the raw emotion of it, which kind of became toxic like over a certain like practice session. So Vaishak could like literally see me like forcing a certain emotion, or like
huh.
me trying to like put something out for the sake of it. So like that's how toxicity transformed in this like field of art. Like that's what I'm assuming.
Uh, I mean, one thing I think I learned when I started film school was I couldn't have been more wrong. Like of all my learnings, right, I couldn't have been more wrong. But it's not that I wasn't right either. It's just that I was wrong, but I was also right in some. Um, I think there's something that I also learned, and there's something that many people. I think I told this before also. With when it comes to theater, right? Everyone says exaggerate your emotion. Everyone says you have to blow it out of what is the word?
Proportion.
Proportions. Yes. Sorry, I have your disease from yesterday. Blow it out of
Proportion.
proportions. Um, and I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that one bit because I think that is it's like saying you want subtle actors in Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, right? Like you don't. Like the entire point of that movie is the drama. You need that drama, and I think that's where Navarasa comes in. I just didn't know the concepts back then, but I don't agree with what today's concepts are going about. Even in college, even in film school, when they say that when they see someone being dramatic, like oh my god, they're like, oh, stop being a theater actor. I'm like, no, that's not a theater actor. That's just an over actor. Don't categorize it into that umbrella.
Stereotype.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I agree with you that a lot of especially a lot of emotions that comes out in acting, and this is I think one of the most mind-blowing or eye-opening things for me. Everything that you do as an actor is not a character but is just you.
Okay. Okay.
It's just you're giving another name for it. It's like, for example, if I'm playing someone named John, I will still react. I have to react like Sumukha
Hmm.
in John's imaginary situations. I can't react like John because I don't know how John is. I can keep in
Okay.
mind his traits and everything. I can go along with that, but my reactions will be my reactions,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And it's not how I would react, but it's how I would react in that situation, which will change
Hmm.
altogether. Like if I tell you how would you react when your mom dies, everyone will go, right? But you won't. Like if I tell you right now, you'll be like, how? Or you make a joke about it. You'll have your defense mechanism.
Yeah.
I think that's what I learned over the past year.
It's like
Otherwise, even I would have been
individualizing the
like,
character, right? So like over the
yeah,
period of time, they've been like in a lot of like Hollywood movies, like James Bond, right? Like it's a franchise. So it's the same character, but it's like different actors acting. So it's like
yeah,
when you look at it from that perspective, the character sketch is same, but it's different actors playing it. So when you see it, it's like different people are playing because they individualize the character. So it makes sense when you say that, like even if it is you playing that character, like even though you like you're trying to be like different person, or like even you're trying to like fit into like that persona of the actor that you want to be, but it's still like the source of all the emotion comes from you. So I think that like you can only express certain emotion when you feel it, right? So let's say if I have to act like one of my loved one died, then I need to know like I need to know what that emotion feels like in the first place, like either by actually like probably in the past like facing that emotion, or like observing other people, like other people's emotion, like being empathetic. But either which ways it would still come from how would you personally react if you were in that place. So it makes sense.
yeah. So are you going to go back into acting anytime soon, or like are you have you left
uh
that train?
No, 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 no. I definitely would love to perceive. It's like the problem with me is like if I do one thing, I put like a lot of efforts into that. Like with respect to
Hmm.
multitasking, I'm bad at it. But if I have an
Hmm.
opportunity, I would love to like perform a play. I'm still like we were supposed to stage Dvitva, the same play that I was talking about, the Vaishak. We were supposed to stage that outside as a professional product with professional production, but because of the pandemic we kind of like put halt on that.
Hmm.
And now I don't know if we can get the cast back again and then get the whole setup back again. But I would still love to perceive like acting, like that's like I don't want to let go that part of me yet. Like I think I would still want to like do it as
Okay,
a.
but if I'm not wrong, there was only two people, alva, Castally.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's two people, but like we have another like music. So it was
Ah.
like live instrument, right? So Vaishak, like
Mm-hmm.
he he put emphasis on that. Like it added to
Yeah, obviously.
live liveliness of the
Mm.
play. So yeah, plus like there goes a lot of planning like before putting a play out, right? Like like how many
Yes.
plays have you put out? Like how many productions? How many times?
As piece of paper, I think we put out how many? Four, six, six plays.
Hmm.
Six, yeah, six plays.
What is it like, Sumukha? Like coordinating with everything. Like
Mm.
even when you look from like filmmaking perspective, like director he manages everything. Like even with play, it's like I think with play it's harder because with filmmaking you can just like you can place the camera and you can like ignore whatever you don't want to focus on. But with play, everyone is looking like the whole stage at the same time. So with respect to direction there is a sense of difference, right? Like with filmmaking the direction is different and the way how they manage is different, and with plays, putting out theater plays, the kind of way how director manages is different. And you've been in the both, like you've been in both the places and you've done both the things. So what do you think is the difference
Uh, I think when it comes to there's more pressure on a film director than a theater director.
with respect
When
to
I
like
mean,
money and commerce?
no, not only that. I mean, you have large scale productions, but I think it's because on the last day, right, when the D Day has to come, the director has no say in it, right? So the director knows this all along. The director knows that no matter what I do, no matter how I direct, it all depends on them.
What do you
He
mean
will be
them?
stressed. He will be more stressed. Agreed. But there's not a lot of pressure on him. So he will have to do a certain thing, but he also knows the back. Like whenever I direct, right, I know what I want, but I also have to accept the fact that it won't be like that because at the end of the day, things are going to change. There will be something that comes up. There will be some improvisation that happens. There will be some
Oh,
cover
in
up. There will be some
theater.
goof up. Yeah.
Huh. So are you saying
In
the
theater,
risk is more in filmmaking director or like theater director?
for a director, the risk is more in theater.
Huh.
For a filmmaker, I think the risk is lesser. In terms of his creativity only, not in terms of money, nothing else. I'm only talking in terms of creativity. The creativity can get hampered the most with respect to stage, because at the end of the day, it's the actor's show, but a film is a director's show. So he can cut, he can make you do again and again if he has the money and the energy and the time for it. He has the opportunity, has the possibility to do that, but otherwise no.
Hmm.
And one advantage with a filmmaker director is he can go and act in his own film because he will still have a view of the entire thing. He will still have a bird's eye view, but a theater director can't. Like he won't know how it looks as a whole.
Uh,
He won't know the feeling from the other end. So that's one disadvantage.
yeah. Plus, I think that with
But yeah.
what do you think about this is what I have observed. So with respect to character sketch, right? With plays, directors spend a lot of time with the actors developing the character. It's not directly the lines and the script, because the improvisation aspect of the play, like on the performance day, whatever the actors do on stage is the final, right? Like there is no way to redo it or undo it. So in order to like in order to bring the character out, they need to work on the character's foundation. So I've observed uh like in theater there goes a lot of like foundation work with the actors in creating a persona, to understand the character better. So even if you improvise, just to put a boundaries on, like even if you improvise what you can and what you can't do, to just like put that barriers. But with like filmmaking direction, it's like different, right?
No, I think it's the same for both. See, this with respect to setting up foundation with actors, I think this is more of an actor's duty. This comes more under an actor's duty. Because a director will be occupied with so many things that he would want to do this. He would want to spend a lot of time on this, but he won't be able to.
Hmm.
Right. So whenever he can, whenever he will take a big chunk of time and set up foundation. But most of the foundation is set by the actors. They will set a certain thing by just listening to basic instructions of director saying that this is what the player slash movie is about. This is what I think your character is. And then after that, questions are presented as and when. Right? What do you think? Why do you think this person is doing that? Why do you think? So I agree with the fact that directors usually spend a lot of time on setting up actors with their characters, setting up a certain foundation. But I don't think it's different because this is where it's taken away from the director's hand. The setting up a foundation is more in control of by the actors than the directors
Okay.
themselves.
Okay. Makes sense. Yeah, yeah. Hmm. I think that like director like feeds in something, and then how the actor chews it and digests it, it's entirely based on actor. Makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah. Uh, I'm just gonna switch the gears here. Uh, like this is just a like random left turn. Have you seen any like Korean drama, like movies or like series?
Uh, no, I've never gotten the movies. I've seen a few. I think. Wait, what is Parasite? Is Korean only? Yeah. I've seen a
Is
few. I've seen
Parasite
a few
Korean
animated.
or
I,
Chinese
I think
Korean?
so.
Yeah.
I think it's Korean. Yeah, I
But
think it's
this is a
Korean.
very like specific genre. Like it's Korean drama.
Yeah. I've not seen the series. I've heard a lot about them. I've seen a lot of kids
Hmm.
watching it these days. But I haven't watched any Korean drama. But I've heard a lot about the movies. I think they have a certain. I've read a lot of interviews, and it
Okay.
speaks a lot about the directors. And I'm in a big awe to actually watch them.
The reason why I asked about like Korean drama is that recently I've watched like two series. Like I finished two of them, and it is like the best version of Bollywood. Like it's what Bollywood wants to be, but cannot be.
Hmm.
So it's so like every single time we talk on the call, we end up talking about Bollywood, right? Like we end up like
Hmm.
we've on call, like we talked about like thrice. We had like 3 hour like calls, and like
Yeah.
every single time we talk about like Bollywood. So that's why I asked, like Korean
Hmm.
drama, it's best, like the cream of what like Bollywood wants to be.
Hmm.
It's very like a part of Bollywood, the part of it was how it made you feel. Like let's say you watch like a romantic
Hmm.
movie, or it's those feels, right? It's like you want the guy and girl to like get together at last. Like you will start, like you'll involve yourself in the story like so much.
Hmm.
And a part of that kind of drifted apart. But like now, the Bollywood is very, very, very different.
I have a feeling. I mean, this is again talks from my teachers also with respect to what is happening. I have a feeling that Bollywood is going to strive to come back to what it was because see, filmmaking is a big business. I mean, you can't deny that it's not always about oh, for the fans because it's not. It's like a livelihood as of any other thing. Uh, but yeah, it's a business as at the end of the day, right? So for movies to sustain, for more opportunities to present itself, I think you need the money, and the only way you can make the money is if you have such movies running in the background. right? Even if it's not taking the limelight, you just need these movies. Not movies like Fan. I mean, Fan was a good attempt.
Yeah.
I think it was a very struggling attempt for Shah Rukh Khan, but not movies like Zero. Zero was just like we'll add
I
twist
think
somewhere. We'll add twist.
I think Shah Rukh Khan is the like Shah Rukh Khan and like Saif Ali Khan in Bollywood are the like only people that I know who are like experimenting, and even like Ayushmann Khurrana, even he's also like playing it safe. Like he like a lot of people admire him for the choice of the story, but it's like I think that like Ayushmann Khurrana is the only his only condition is the story should be like different, like like if you keep
Yeah.
doing unique stuff the uniqueness becomes same, so it kind of
Hmm.
becomes like monotonous, so I think that's where like he
Yeah.
is falling under. And like Sumukha, I'd love to know your thoughts on like this is what I feel, and this is what like when I read a lot of news article, like Bollywood lost its charm on the way. Like that's what I feel, and a lot of people like because even with respect to movies, that it feels like they're all over the place. Some are trying to do remakes, some are trying to do biopics, some are trying to do like pan India movies. It's all over the place. Like it kind of lost its essence. So why do you think that happened?
Um. See, I think a lot has to do with the fact that the pandemic hit. The pandemic was the saving grace for Bollywood. I mean, when I mean Bollywood, I mean cliche Bollywood. Uh, Reason being, when movies were released just before pandemic, things were not looking very good, right? You had movies coming in which had a lot of like they're trying to be the same story, they're trying to give the same meaning, they're trying to make the audience feel. But once you give access for the audience to look at movies which are classy, which are good, because just
Uh,
1.5 years before the pandemic hit, people started watching Tamasha, which was released long back, and Rockstar, and people started falling in love with it. And then they realized the mainstream movies which you watch, which are released, are not that good. Right? Bollywood really needed a break. Like they had to take a break, but again, because it's a business, they're like, let's ride it through it. Let's like push through it. Because of that, and again, that's the obsession I'm talking about. They just wanted to make like release more movies, even if not make more money. They tried releasing more movies day by day. They got star casts so that they would at least earn more money. They were trying to buy the charm away again. But I think when things were looking really bad for actors, the pandemic hit and saved them. Because when the pandemic hit, all these movies which didn't come out so well, Masan was released when 2010,
it's
10,
Vicky
8? When
Kaushal
was it
movie,
released?
right?
Yeah, it was released way back. And people are watching it now and going, wow, right? Even in Monsoon Shooter, which is Vijay Verma's, was released long back. But people are watching it now and like, going, oh my God, why aren't people? And the thing is, our audience is very hypocritical. Right? We won't watch the movie, but we watch it now and be like, oh my God, how can we not like, how can people not like this movie? Like, you didn't like it then.
Yeah.
You can't say that now. And see, as an audience, I think we are also very, we can't also multitask. We can't have a Bollywood cliche movie running in our mind and a very good movie. We will, if you give us Bollywood movies only, we will love that. You give this like good movie, we'll be like, okay, fine, it was there.
I think it's
Now
the
we only
phases,
have good
right?
movies.
We have
Yeah.
this
Now
like
we only have good movies.
as a person you have phases, right? Like when I got into
Yeah.
workout, I had this phase. I was watching all the Fast and Furious franchise just to get my like pump, and then like watch all the like Creed and kind of
Yeah.
like action movies to like to motivate me to hit the gym regularly.
Yeah.
And like let's say when you're in love or like you just broke up, you kind of navigate towards that kind of movies. So as an individual, you have like different phases of life. I think as a whole society, we are also having the phases where we like only like these kind of movies, like these kind of feel good movies, and then we want like this type of movies. The other day my sister pointed this interesting point out. Now we are in a phase where we want to show that gender equality, like like girls, like empowering women. So like all the movies that plan on empowering women, they make women wear like short clothes or like smoke cigarettes or like drink alcohol. Like that's the kind of way that they're promoting women empowerment. Like, does this make sense? So women empowerment is not that, right? But symbolically, that's how it's being represented. So we are in that phase right now, or like we were. But
I think that has a lot to do with kind of understanding what the audience will interpret from this, right? Again, when someone says, woman is smoking a cigarette, right? Today we're just like, okay, so what? Like it doesn't make a difference to us. But back then, that was their way to kind of get into their head, normalizing things. Normalizing things would be like even today, right? We're normalizing so many things. We're normalizing the fact that transgenders exist, normalizing the fact that LGBTQ is a community. Like the only way I think, and this is the worst part, the only way I think humans will ever understand something is if we normalize it. You'll have to normalize everything for people to be like, okay, this is normal. Which normalizing would mean constantly putting it out there, putting it in the limelight, constantly showing them these images.
but like there is a exaggerated version of the normalized thing, right? Like, let's say women smoke cigarette. Like women, like they've been smoking cigarettes in India from a very like long time. It's been years. And normally when you look at one of your like female friends smoke cigarette, she doesn't like wear short clothes, like hold beer in one hand and then smoke cigarette. It's like, if you want to normalize something, you have to show it in like casually, like normally. You don't have to put like spotlight on the fact and then kind of make that exaggerated statement. Like it comes off
Yeah,
very often. That kind of is setting out like a very wrong notion of what, like, if you start giving women empowerment, like if you start giving this connotation to empowerment, this is what every woman wants to like strive for, right? Like, because that is how much like movies have influence on us. Like, you watch a movie, you
yeah,
want to be that character. So I am scared of that a little bit, but yeah, it's their choice. But like the user, like
yeah.
viewer's choice. If you're dumb enough then to follow them, like,
It's again like what film license or creative license things
yeah.
that um, there was also a movie that we watched for an analysis or something, which was nice. So it was basically it was about a movie set in France. This guy is like Guzarish. Have you seen Guzarish?
Nope.
No, okay. So it's about this businessman. Okay, his parents were rich and then they passed away, but he went for like air gliding, paragliding one day, and then he broke his limbs and he's paralyzed neck down.
Ah.
But he has all the riches in the world and all that, and he has
What's the
caretakers in
movie
his
name?
house. I
It's
forgot.
Emilia Clarke and this
No,
other
no, no,
girl,
that
no?
is You Before Me
Oh,
or
Me
Me
Before
Before
You,
You.
Me Before You. Yeah, oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's
Me
not
Before
that.
You.
It's a French movie. It's a complete French movie. It's on Netflix. I'll send you the movie when I remember it. But yeah, to in order, I think so. They used it's nothing romantic. Okay, it's based on true. It's an inspired from a true story. It's based on true story. I'm not sure. So he's recruiting for someone to take care of him, like stay in maid kind of thing. Like he has to look after him, and he wants a man, not a woman. Okay, so people come and then they're like, they come interview and all this. And then there's one guy who comes from a lower background, who comes from a poor background. He just wants to reap the benefits of the government, which says if you don't have a job, they keep paying you, right? But if there's an opportunity for a job, then you have to go there.
Is this a
You have to
remake
go
of
if you
Up
get it.
Down? Like, Up Down was the remake of this movie, right? Like Kevin Hart
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. So this was the original. Then Up
Upside
Down
Down, I
came.
guess. Up Down or Upside Down? I don't know
Yeah, up,
what the name
down,
is.
upside down, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So in that movie, right, is basically this white privileged man, and they used a black actor, right, to show. But then the actual story was about a white man with a Hispanic character, right? His stay maid or whatever is a Hispanic character. And I remember a lot of people got triggered by the fact that they used a black guy, which kind of promoted racism and all that. But I also think it's a creative license to kind of show that you know he didn't see the fact that there was a race difference, right? He didn't see that there was anything different. And it's also to show the fact that look at the difference in the classes. Because if you see again, like we will always point out one thing or the other. If we chose a Hispanic character, then we'll be like, okay, fine, the Hispanic character doesn't have much to go through because he's at least he's not a minority, right? Or something else would happen. He's not a
Plus, he's
minority,
rich.
and in blacks also, yeah. Right, you would also you pick out one thing that and that is us, right? Like if, for example, if I say I broke my left leg in sixth grade, you would be like, oh, I broke my skull in 12th grade. So what? Like
It's a
it'll be
comparison of the
we're
problems.
competitive usually. Yeah, and we like to think that we have it tougher or we have it better. We can't make up our mind. So in order to remove all that, I think we used like something that was stereotypical, that was already out there, to show the difference in races. It was again a creative license. Yeah, so he used a creative license to kind of show the entire thing, but it triggered a lot of people, and that is what I think the problem with creative licenses are. You want to do something, but see, you can't. I think a movie is not supposed to protect your feelings. A movie is not done so that oh my god, I don't want to hurt you. That's why I'm making this movie. No, a movie is going to hurt you. Is going to make you happy. Is going to trigger the deepest, darkest insecurities that you have in you. That's what a movie is supposed to do. If you don't like it, don't watch.
Yeah,
Read a book. Even that will, or just like live under a rock. It's up to you, right? You
yeah,
can't expect to not to protect your feelings. But again, that saying, like, some movies are done in a very bad way, in a sense of a poor attempt or a cheap attempt, not a poor attempt, a cheap attempt to kind of get the audience to feel something. And I think that's a very lazy filmmaker. I won't say they're racist. I won't say that they're insensitive. I'll just say that they're lazy. They don't have what it takes to actually kind of tap into something deeper. Because if I had to show like you're poor, then I would just put you in a small house with like a broken roof, right? That's a very poor attempt to do. That's a very lazy attempt. I could also show you kind of like taking $100 and paying someone and making sure that you get the change back because you don't have enough money to go on a bus. Like there are many ways that I can show it, but I wouldn't want to show it like to show like your house is this thing or you live in Dharavi, something like that. I don't want to show it like that because that's a very lazy attempt.
yeah. That's like that provoked like so many thoughts in my head. Like I watch a lot of South Indian movies, knowing what to expect. So I know
Hmm.
like what kind of like storyline it's gonna be. Like in the first 20 minutes, like 15 minutes, I know like the end of the movie. Like that kind of
Hmm.
movies. So like I always felt that there is something lacking in these movies. Like there is budget, like there is like actors who can act well, and there is the crew, everything, but something is lacking there. And now when you said that, it makes so much sense, because for a problem there is different layers, and understanding the layers, understanding the depth of the problem, and like properly empathizing with them, you can add very like subtle elements to make
Yeah.
audience understand the problem. So that is the beauty of like filmmaking, right? Like now
Yeah.
it is there are so many like actors in Bollywood and like in South Indian movies, or who can't act for shit. Like they cannot act, but still, like
Hmm.
I'm gonna put it out there, Kartik Aryan can't act. Like he
Hmm.
cannot act. Like I have seen his movies, all he does is like monologues and monologues. I don't know like how is he even like famous, but like he can't act, but he still makes movie and he puts out there, but people still like they like it. So that goes entirely on the notion of the movies. It's like Bollywood, like Indian cinema, most of the commercial movies, even if you replace this actor with other actor, that movie is still gonna make the same amount of money. It's like the setup, the formula of the entire movie is to click. So that is very like that's one of the annoying part.
I think with all these, see again, it's exactly like every even I can't draw any comparison, but yeah, I think they all play to their strengths. Like Kartik Aryan, he's a Delhi boy, right? For him, his language, his dialect, the fact that he can recite a monologue in one go, is his strong suit. In every movie, they will always put one monologue for Kartik Aaryan. They will. It's compulsory. If Kartik Aaryan's there, there has to be one long monologue. Right, which always, I've seen this in so many auditions. It's either Shah Rukh Khan from Chak De India, Sattar Mumde Tumhare Paas, or is Kartik Aaryan from what is the Pyar Ka Panchnama, Pyar Ka Panchnama 2, or Sony
uh,
Kid 2, Ki Sweetie Ki Kahani,
a
whatever
lot of people
that.
like learn that and audition, like use that
Yeah,
for auditioning
and
for
it's
roles. Yeah.
boring. It's boring because this is one thing that okay, so I respect mimicry. I love mimicry. I love mimicry artists. They're it's a talent to possess. But what I don't like is when mimicry comes into the field of acting. Acting is not mimicry. Mimicry is not acting. I think they're two different things, right? Mimicry is an art of its own. And it's tough to master. You can't put it under the same this thing. But the problem with mimicry is, I mean, this is again, I'm speaking only from reference or anything like that. And since you brought up James Bond, the first James Bond already set a certain standard, right? He already set a certain image for James Bond. Until Daniel Craig, everyone stuck to that image, right? Until Daniel Craig, everyone was like that subtle, like they look at the girl,
They
they
try to imitate the
smile.
previous James Bond, basically.
It's not even imitate. They have a reference and they're sticking to that for safety. Then Daniel Craig came. His sarcasm, his wittiness, his way of delivery is very different. Right? Then he won't always kind of go like he won't give that fuckboy look or something like that. He would just see. I think that's why I love Daniel Craig's James Bond, right? Because he had that entire persona. He had his personality get into James Bond's personality, right? I think that adds a lot of character. And when I see a lot of auditions, uh, I mean, when we've been doing plays, a lot of them mimic other actors. Like for example, Chakte India, when they took Shah Rukh Khan's monologue, they would make sure that they sound like Shah Rukh Khan.
Hmm.
And even in film school, right, when I'm here, a lot of people want to be Shah Rukh Khan. I'm like, why would you want to be someone who already exists? Aren't you always going to follow that person? Like you'll always be behind that person. Won't you want to kind of like create your own path or something like that? Which is also, I think, what is funny about Shahid Kapoor. Like Shahid Kapoor these days is only doing like Telugu remakes.
Yeah. The
Arjun
classic
Reddy,
good Telugu movies.
yeah, Arjun Reddy came, now Kabir Singh. The 90, no, which is that cricket movie?
Jersey.
Jersey came here. Then his some other new movies coming. I
Oh,
mean,
is
it has
that
already come in Telugu.
that's also a Telugu remake? Shahid
Which
Kapoor's
one?
next movie after Jersey.
Yeah, the next movie is also a Telugu remake. I'm just like, why? I mean, there's so much
That's
content.
such a
Make something
sad thing,
else.
right? Like there is already a Telugu movie. Like put subtitles and watch it. Like this Bollywood is capitalizing on the audience that they have, the number of audience that they have. They just pick like a story from a small city. Let's say Telugu movie is like only people who know Telugu language watch it.
Yeah,
But the
watch it.
people who
Yeah.
know Hindi, it's across India. Like everybody watches. So they just pick a regional movie and they put it across India. So that's
Yes,
so
because they have a
cheeky.
higher
Yeah.
budget. See, it's basically like they take it from some other language and then they add their budget to it. They make it look prettier, right?
They'll make it Bollywood basically.
Honestly, yeah, and it's funny because like until now, every other industry has done that with Bollywood.
Oh yeah, that's so true. That's so true.
Yeah, they've always taken that same concept and put it into like
Into
a
regional
lot of Kannada
movies. Yeah.
movies have been taken from Waqt, right? Bhagban and all that. So, but I think the only person who can save Kannada industry right now is Rakshit Shetty. There is no one else who can save Kannada industry. I started watching the new releases, right? Puneet Rajkumar, which one was that? I
Yuvaratna or
forgot.
something.
Puneet, yeah, Yuvaratna, then Dhanush, I think. Yeah, I'm just like, what are these movies? like it's not even plausible to happen like this. There is no, there is, I'm just, Raksha Shetty is just experimenting. He's like, take Tarantino style, take this Scorsese style, mix everything, make one cocktail, put it out there.
But it's like
At least do something
he
different.
need to put a little bit more number of movies. Like that's the in Telugu there is a actor. His name is Adavishesh. So like his movies are also amazing. Like he writes like his stories. You gotta go watch them. Like Telugu Adavishesh movies. It's like to like you
Give me an
cannot.
example.
There is a movie called Yavaru. uh, it's a Adavishesh movie, and I suggest you to go watch. Like if there's a viewers from like any language, put subtitles and watch that movie. It's on Amazon Prime. Like like I cannot tell you the story. Like that's how many layers the story has. Like it is like if he has one loose end, the story won't be that compact. It's like it is so
Hmm.
complicated, but he just wove through the story like so beautifully that the compact I can only enjoy the movie, but I cannot communicate it. Like it's that kind of movie.
Hmm.
It's like Interstellar basically. Like you cannot tell, right? Like what the like the story
Yeah.
is, but like describe the entire movie, but that's how it is. So like so many like it's so interesting that we are able to have this conversation because not a lot of people know like multiple languages and watch those movies like me and you do. Like we watch English, we watch like Hindi Bollywood, we watch Kannada Sandalwood, we watch Telugu Tollywood, and now I'm watching like Tamil also. So
Hmm.
it's like there is like you can draw comparison, you can draw differences. Like there is like there's a different layers to different movies. And you also told about that French movie. So like my question to you is when you when you analyze a movie, you told in your college they gave you an assignment to analyze this particular movie. So how do you do that? Like how do you analyze a movie? Like is there step by step like a theoretical process, or it's like individual? Like how is it?
Um, there is a step-by-step process on how you can analyze it. I think to see the basic thing is you need to break down a film into pieces, right? And how you do that is basically you think about the plot, what the plot of the movie is, what is the theme. Now, theme is one of the most difficult and most complicated things to have. It's very easy to search on Google and go like, what is the theme of this? But a theme is basically one word or one sentence which describes the movie, right? But not tells you the story of the movie. Like if you say I don't know, if you say Three Idiots, right? It can't be something like an engineer's um, an engineer's journey to success, right? Because that explains the movie. A theme can't explain the movie. A theme has to be about the movie,
Is that
right? So, for
genre?
example,
Like is that similar? Like is
no,
that same?
genre is something else. Genre is basically what style it comes under. It can be,
Okay.
and genre is very broadened, right? It's not as simple as action drama. There's something called gangster, there's something called 70s, there's something called black and white, there's something called classic, then things like that. So Three Idiots would be something like success ke piche mat bhago, just work on yourself and then success will run behind you, right? That's something that Amir Khan says, or yeah, Amir Khan says in the
In the
movie. So that
movie.
that comes out that can be a theme. A movie can have multiple themes, but there's only one right theme which
Oh,
will catch someone's attention,
okay. Theme
right?
could be like one line or one word. Like initially you said one word.
Yeah, one word or one line,
Okay.
right? But usually that one word, that theme is a one sentence thing,
Hmm. It's
right?
like
That
a
one sentence
proverb
should
basically. It's like slogan or
yeah,
proverb or something like.
something like that, which defines
Hmm.
the movie.
Okay.
Um, and then after that, you go into the outline, the story. So there's a three. Every movie is a three act, right? You have the introduction, then you have the mid, and then you have the climax, whatever. Each three act has a pinpoint. It has a critical point. It has a climatic point, and all that. And then it has a peak point. Then it surges into like I forgot the three divisions. My mom will be so disappointed in me. But but yeah, so then you analyze that bit by bit. Then you analyze the critical points. You then, I think acting comes towards the end. Like before that, you talk about space. You talk about how they utilize the space, and then finally you get in. Not finally, but after that you get into acting. So you get into each person's performances, and the relationships, their personal relationship, their professional relationships. For example, every character has a job. Like they will have a job to do apart from just what they show in the movie. Does that come out? Because what is important for a human being is their every part of their life mixes in and becomes what they are. So if you are a student, then you will have a different personality. Once you start working, you'll have a different personality, right? And that also has to come in when you act. So you analyze that, then you analyze how they've played around with their space, how they've played around with the camera, and then finally you go with shots which like heightened their expressions, which brought in more and all that. After all that happens, that's it. Like then you have your entire analysis, then you can give the review
Okay.
if you liked it, if you didn't like it.
Yeah, and like me personally, this is how I analyze a movie. If I like the movie or if it fails, like why it fails. So I focus, like every single movie is about conflict and resolution, right? Like it's a build up to of the conflict, and then the resolution of the conflict is the movie, or at least like most of the movies like have this format. So uh the higher the conflict, the impact of the resolution is also higher. It's like they're directly proportional to
Yeah,
each other, right? Some
yeah,
movies, the conflict is so, like the magnitude of the conflict is so low, and the resolution is also like slow. So when the movie ends, you don't feel the impact of the movie, so you don't carry that
mm,
movie forward. So I recently saw this Indonesian movies. So I am like, my guilty pleasure is chick flicks. Like I kind of like watching the chick flick, kind of like romantic, that kind of feel good kind of movies. So
mm,
I stumbled upon this movie. It's called like Perfect Fit. It's an Indonesian movie. Like this entire movie is just like feel good, feel good, feel good, and the conflict resolved by itself. Like it is that level
mm,
feel good movie. Like you don't even have to like put a lot of effort, and that didn't satisfy me. Like I didn't like it. I'm like, what is this movie? Like
mm,
even like the conflict, like the actors, the protagonist didn't do anything to resolve the conflict. Like the conflict just, the atmosphere of the movie resolved the conflict by itself. So what's the whole point here? So yeah, like I think that's like the key thing that I look for in a movie.
mm. Yeah, I mean, I think I know what you mean. A lot of movies actually have that. You're waiting for the build up, and you're like, that's it, okay. But yeah, sometimes the conflict, like in war, the conflict rises to some extent, and you're just like, I don't want it to get resolved. Let it just end. Just end now,
Yeah,
please.
yeah.
But yeah, I
Even
get
the
what you mean.
conflict, even the conflict like gets too much also, it becomes very annoying. There is a movie called
Yeah.
Saho. Prabhas acted in it, right? The movie has so many twists and like so many
Mm.
conflicts that after a point you lose a track of like, he has like so many like conflicts that you have to like in hierarchy you have to put like which is higher and which is lower. So when it resolves, you're like, what again? Like after this, oh again, like it becomes like too much. And
Mm.
like going back to La La Land, like we spoke about this the first time we, like when you were on the podcast.
Mm.
The conflict and resolution, the built up of the conflict, the resolution is just in like 5 seconds max, or like 10 seconds.
Mm.
But the 10 seconds, like it impacted the, like the conflict that the entire movie built up to that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
It could be as
I
simple as that.
I think that for me that look in La La Land was the best. I think that's where everything got resolved. It's like,
Yeah,
but dude, those two are like amazing actors.
yeah. In La La
They
Land,
should have won the Oscar.
yeah, like Emma Stone, like she acts as an actor in the movie, right? Like she gives an audition.
Mm.
That is such a like crazy thing. Even Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it's Leonardo DiCaprio
Yeah.
playing a character who's playing another character. So when
Mm.
you break from the third layer, you come back to the second layer, and then you go back to the third layer. Like that's what happens in Once Upon.
Yeah.
It is so
Yeah.
like so hard and so amazing that like these people can
Mm.
do that. Holy smoke!
Even in Marriage Story, what's her name? Scarlett Johansson plays an actress, right? She plays an actress, and she is actually performing for her family. Right? Since she is an actress, they ask her, I mean, you're an actor, you have enough confidence, just perform and sing. She doesn't know, and she does it so well because she is a trained dancer, right? So she knows how to dance. But she does it so well. I'm just like, how, like, what is, and for for someone who doesn't understand the entire craft of acting, you will be like, oh, this is very normal. But if you watch her properly, you can see her body being rigid, her legs moving a little awkwardly. And that's how, even if you are an actor, even if you are like a professional actor, when it comes to family or people you know, right, and you have to act in front of them, you just become all awkward and shy. And she brought in that very well. Like it was beautiful.
Yeah. Like I get this like constant question where like what do you think is the hardest role to act? Like what role is hard? Like initially I thought it's that like psychotic serial killer kind of acting. Like I thought that was hard. But then now I've realized like acting in a way that you don't know how to act, like pretending to be like a someone who don't know how to act is like the hardest thing. It's like if you
Hmm.
ask like a cricketer to pretend like he doesn't know how to play cricket, like it's the hardest thing for him because he is good at it.
Hmm.
So actors playing characters who don't know how to act, that's the hardest thing for me. Like what do you think is the
Yeah.
hardest thing to act?
I think for me, hardest thing is acting like yourself. Like I think I don't know. Like
What do you mean?
I don't know how to act like myself. When someone says, like they give you a character which is, for example, in those movies where they say this person played by the same person, right? Like he plays himself. If it's not based on an acting movie, then he'll just be like, he'll just be himself. But when it is an acting movie, right? When you have to show the fact that this is exactly you, you're like, what is me? I don't know what I am. I don't know who I am. I can't act like myself. What you give me another character, I can do that because I've put my mind to it. If you
Yeah,
expect me to
true.
act without thinking, then I'm just like, so when I start thinking, I'm a different person already. Like you can't expect me to act like not thinking, right?
It's like
I
I
think
think
that
that
is
when
for me.
you're conscious, you're not you, right? Like you're
Yeah,
only you when you do shit involuntary. But when you're
yeah,
consciously being yourself, that's when you're not being yourself.
yeah. I'm
That's an
like,
interesting point.
okay, for me, that's the. It's also because I don't know myself very well, and I don't think it's when people say, "Yeah, I know myself." I don't think it's true because you might think you know yourself, but you need to tap into those things which you've been suppressing for like ages together,
Yeah.
right? And only when you know exactly what triggers you, what all makes you happy, and you can control your emotions as if it's a switch, that's when you know yourself.
Hmm. But I think that like I think only 10% of ourselves or like max to max 20% of ourselves are the only like constant things. Like rest
Yeah,
80% you grow, you change, you learn, like few years back my body language was entirely different from like what my body language is today. And like if I am assuming that that is me, that means that I'm not a person anymore. So it's like I
yeah.
talk differently and I feel emotions
Hmm.
differently. Like when you learn, right? Like the part of growing up is like making mistakes, learning the wisdom, all of that was jazz. It's like when you learn, like you react differently. So it's like the constant process of like receiving information and putting information out there. So yeah, I don't think there is you. There's just only like 20 part of you. I think when people
Hmm.
say that they know themselves, I think that's what they like to believe, that like
Hmm.
that's their persona of, oh, I want to be this person. Like I think that is what they tell when they think Like when you ask them who
Yeah,
they are.
I think everyone has like a set mindset on what to be, what not to be, all that. So
Do you
yeah.
think being an actor kind of messed with that, like the identity crisis?
I think you need to have an identity crisis if you want to be an actor.
Okay.
You need to want to explore yourself. And as you know, the opening statement happened. Like, you know, the only way to be an actor is to be yourself, right? To know yourself. Actually, you need to. I won't say identity crisis, but you can't live with the fact that you know yourself at all. You need to know yourself more and more every day, because every day you are different. And you need to know that if you want to be an actor. You need to know everything about yourself if you want to be an actor. And when I mean know about yourself, I don't mean like physically. Like physically, it's very easy to know yourself. I mean in term of emotional or like social content.
How you react to
I think
things, what
yeah.
triggers you, what, like all of that.
But I think the problem with today for an actor is that there is a in order for you to know yourself, you need to have a safe space.
Okay.
And it's very tough to get a safe space today, because it's see, in order for you to be sensitive and know your thoughts, you need to be completely vulnerable first.
You need to let
And
your
if you're
guard down.
yeah, you need to let your guard down completely. You can't hold it up and go like, I want to know myself. But for that, you need someone who, or a group of people who will actually just be there to kind of give you a safe space. Even if not contribute to anything, just give you a safe space. That's it. You can't do this on the outside, because then you'll get beaten up, right? Or laughed at or something like that, or judged. And that is very tough to find today.
Yeah.
Because as I think we've become more opinionated, I think we've become more sensitive to things. I think we've slowly started to accept that when we say we don't judge, we know it's not true. Every person judges the other person. It's just what it is.
You do come to
It's high time.
conclusions. Yeah.
Yeah, it's high time. I mean, and it's not a bad word. Also, judging someone is not a bad thing. Judging someone is forming an impression of them. So what?
It
You
happens
do that even when,
subconsciously. Just because you deny it
yeah,
doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Like, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I think it's high time that everyone comes into awareness of this. That you do judge. It's okay, and it's okay to be judged also,
I think
because
that
you,
like when your subconscious judges something, like what are the like the secondary thoughts that you send back to that judgment? Like I think that's what matters. So like when you have a
yeah,
negative thought, like thoughts are involuntary, but like do you send like backup thoughts to like stop that negative from the negativity from spreading? Or I think like that's
yeah,
the important part.
yeah. And it's a very unhealthy thing to do. Like think of something else so that you don't judge someone.
Hmm.
Well, you're still going to keep judging that person, but you just won't know it consciously. That's it.
You're just denying it. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think like it's so beautiful when you say that because when I was performing a play that Jayasmruti directed and you were also like active part of the play, the making. Uh,
To me.
we all were like the initial part of the play, we were all trying to figure out like the mannerisms of the character or like what like trying to explore the physicality of the character. So we kind of like we had like a multiple ranges that we were
Mm.
like doing. I think that that's when we all physically, mentally, emotionally became comfortable with each other, like the creating that like
Yeah.
zero judgment zone where you can let your guard down. It has a lot to do with the physical actions, not just with the emotional and mental actions. So that's where like the dance and movement therapy comes. Like I had Apurva, she's a dance and movement therapist. Like I had her twice. It's so like
Mm.
lovely to learn about like human body on a psychology standpoint. And
Yeah.
with theater
Yeah.
also like that kind of reflects.
Yeah. It's I think movement is a very important aspect in theater. Like I've learned this over the years. I think to be able to be comfortable with your body is, I think it's the epitome of like a good performance. It's the highest point you can get with a good performance.
Knowing your body.
Until unless you can't break that barrier of a comfortable body, you can't get anywhere with it.
Hmm. You know what this reminds me of? Sumukha, initially when I joined the college, and like when you were the head of the college theater club, and like even before you started your own like production, uh, I remember you specifically like giving feedback to all the people there for a play. People are not conscious of their movement. So let's say when there is a dialogue and a girl delivered with her foot on the heels, and then you asked her to like freeze in that position, and you asked her to be conscious of her feet, like you told her like this is how your feet is, and this connotes to like being romantic or like showing affection and love. So it's like
Yeah,
people when they are off stage, their body language is different, but on stage it's different, but they're not conscious of it. Like they don't know how their
mm,
body moves. So
yeah,
like being comfortable with the movement, like there is that aspect of like of the theater also. But in filmmaking, like you don't see all of that, right? Like it's like
yeah,
sometimes it's close up, sometimes you don't see the whole body, but in theater you do see the whole body. So I think like that feedback was like crucial with my acting also. Like I'm very present, and like I'm very
mm,
conscious of like how my body is and how it moves. So yeah.
yeah. I think feedback is something that people don't take very well. I've learned this. A lot of
Hmm.
people, especially if they're confident with their craft, they don't like the feedback.
Ah,
They like, they would always. I mean, they do like the feedback as long as there's a positive one in the end.
yeah.
If you only give critical feedback, then they'll be like,
It's
okay,
what they
fine.
want to hear, not what they need
Yeah,
to hear. Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. I remember the feedback that you gave to me for my play. Like when Ditwa performed in a competition, you were the judge of the competition, one of the judge, and
yeah,
I was pretty like confident with like my performance, and I thought like, oh, nice. Like I looked at Vaishak, and Vaishak was like I knew like one aspect like where I did wrong, but I was pretty confident. But when I heard your feedback, right, I was like, holy shit! Like this is so true. Like my voice
mm,
projection and all of that. Like when I looked my performance in hindsight, all the feedback that you gave, it made sense. I wasn't even like conscious of all of that. So in the field
mm.
of art, do you think like feedback is important? Like there is
I
like
think it's very important.
okay.
I think it's more important than the actual performance because, and this I think is more critical during the practices than after the performance.
Okay.
Right? I think a director and this I mean with anyone. It can be a light boy who doesn't have any say in what the creativity is. But I think the light man should also say, saying that, hey, listen, I didn't really connect to what you did here. I think that it could
Hmm.
have been done better, something, right? And if they have the time or if they have the energy, then let's go again. Let's do it properly. At the end of the day, you want to be able to give that 100% effort. So I
Hmm.
think feedback is very important.
Yeah. Feedback and
But
also
feedback
inspiration,
just for,
right?
yeah, I think a feedback should be motivating than just critical.
You
In the
think so?
sense that, yeah, I think it should be
I think it should be
motivating than just
constructive.
critical. Yeah. So again, I think that's a better word. Yeah, it should be constructive in a sense that it shouldn't always. One thing I hate is when people just are critically. They use terms like, I didn't like it. Why didn't you like it? I think I told you this before also. The previous time I came on the podcast, it's like when people say, I didn't like this performance, but why didn't you like it? Do you have a reason for it? If you do, then good. Then you know that why you didn't like it. If you say that because, I don't like the person or I don't like how they look, then I think that's just unfair, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to help
Yeah.
anyone. It's not going to change whether he or she can change their looks or anything like that.
You
But
know
yeah.
what this reminds me of? When Vishnu was on the podcast, we spoke about like the whole like cancel culture and like where there are a lot of like comedians, a lot of artists. In person, they're not as good as like
Hmm.
like people thought they are. So it's I think like I'd love to hear like your thoughts on it, because like now when you say you don't like this performance, you don't like that person, or you don't like that performance, or you don't like the art form, like what exactly you don't like about this? So that reminded me of that, like when, let's say,
Hmm.
if there is an actor who like, let's say he gave amazing performance and he received Oscar also, let's say, and then after a few years you found out like he's just jerking off in front of like minors, like just to throw in a random example. Now you don't like his personality, so now you start discrediting all of his like career achievements, so you cannot differentiate his like his career, the art form, from the person. So you kind of like merge. I think that's where what you said like makes sense.
Hmm. Same way, like, when someone's personality is very good, they like their performances a lot. Like, oh my God, he's such a nice person. Okay, but his acting is bad. But he's such a nice person. I don't care. His acting is bad. I don't like it.
Yeah, it's the polar opposite of what I said.
Yeah,
Mm, makes sense. uh, hey man, thank you so much for doing this.
no problem. Thank you so much. I mean, it feels like a full circle.
Yeah, yeah.
We
A
started.
lot of
Yeah,
things that we spoke about then still make sense, and we circle back to all
yeah,
of that. I
yeah,
had to abruptly end the podcast because with you, the conversation can go like on and on, on and on. Like we
yeah.
can talk forever. So,
Hmm.
thank you so much, man. This podcast is now recorded on video as well as audio. If you want to see my beautiful face, you can come to YouTube. If you want to hear my beautiful voice, you can check it out on Spotify, JioSavan, and Ghana.
A Sankarshan Joshi trip.